What's up guys, it's Travis here from Outdoors with Travis. We're at Magnum Archery today and we are going to do a carbon bow battle. Hoyt RX7 Ultra versus the PSE Mach 34. Let's hit it. The Hoyt RX7 Ultra is a fantastic feeling and looking bow. It's a total mass weight of 4.3 pounds. It's a 34 axle to axle with a brace height of 7 inches. They're using the HBX Pro cam system. And obviously Hoyt is well known for their Picatinny sight mounting system as well as the integrated rest option. Something that really suits me, and I haven't owned one of these bows before, but something that I really like out the gates is the super low mounting point for your stabilizer, getting that really low center of gravity for the bow. The PSE Mach 34 is a 34 axle to axle bow with a total weight of 3.65 pounds. You're looking at a 7 1/8 inch brace height, and you're looking at speeds up to 335 feet per second. This is an 80-pound bow that we've tuned down to 70 pounds for the purpose of the video. The Mach 34 is made out of PSE's dead frequency carbon that they're both to be ultra quiet as well as give a dead in the hand feel. What's also nice is they're running the cam spacer system that allows you to tune the bow without taking the axle out. One thing I must just mention for the sake of speed tests and consistency, I've set both these bows to 30 inches. So it's extremely long for me. I'm a 27.5 inch draw length, but for the sake of the video and consistency, they are both set at 30. First impressions, let's check. Feels good, feels very good. Starting to wish I just set it to my draw length so I get the true experience. We just don't have the time today to go and change on both those bows because I can't really speak to the draw cycle at the moment because the draw cycle isn't a good representation. It's just a bit too long for me. But I must say, for a carbon bow, it feels absolutely dead in the hand. I must say, for a bare bow, this thing is pretty dead in the hand. Right, this is the first time ever that I'm going to be shooting the RX7 Ultra. Obviously, again, it's a 30-inch draw, so it's much longer than my normal draw length, but I want these bows to be as equal as possible when we move over to the speed tests. Sure, that felt good. That felt really good. Wow, that draw cycle felt incredible. Absolutely incredible. It does have the Hoyt dampener and little mini stabilizer on the front already, so maybe that's aiding towards it, but there's really no vibration at all in this bow. I don't want to say what I want to say. I must say, out of the two, I can't really talk about draw cycles because again, 2.5 inches longer than my normal draw length. When it comes to dead in the hand, I'm really liking this RX7 Ultra. It feels super good. Could be that weight, that little stabilizer down at the bottom that's maybe helping with that, but overall it really does feel good. Nothing taken away though from that Mach34. From carbon bows, these bows are absolutely dead and rival even the aluminium bows. What is going to be nice to see is when we smack on different weighted arrows and send it through the chrono, what kind of speeds are we getting out of these bows in real world scenarios. So not your RBO 350, but your 450, 500, 550 grain arrows. What kind of speeds are we getting out of these bows, and what kind of efficiency do we get as we go up in that weight? At this point, it really is going to come down to the shooter and as to what he's looking for in a bow, because these bows are just phenomenal. The let-off options in these bows are much of a muchness. The RX7 Ultra gives you an 80 to 85% let-off, and the Mach34 gives you an 80 to 90% let-off. One of the most anticipated parts of these kind of videos, bow versus bow, is the speed test. Yes, we know the IBO ratings. We know that they use a 350 grain arrow on a 70-pound bow at 30-inch draw length. But we want to see what our arrow weights are doing in these kind of bows. So we're going to start with a 350, and we're at 30 inches. On a 70-pound bow, but we're going to do then a 500 grain arrow and then go up to 555 grain arrows and see what kind of speeds we are getting out of both these bows, starting with the RX7 Ultra. (324 feet per second). So exactly 10 feet off, but that could even come down to the whisker biscuit rest that we're using. (324 feet per second). (324 feet per second). So it does mean that it's about 10 feet slower than what they say on the specs, but we do have a whisker biscuit on, which adds a bit of resistance, and it is exactly 70 pounds, so it's pretty close. 500 grain arrow. This is a typical arrow for most hunters here in Africa, and I believe a lot of white-tailed deer hunters as well. See what kind of speeds we're getting out of here. (275 feet per second). Really not bad for a 500 grain arrow. Duplicate 1. So duplicate 1 on the reading means it's the exact same speed. So we're getting a consistent speed of 275 feet per second out of the RX7 Ultra on a 500 grain arrow, 70 pounds, 30-inch draw length. Moving over to an arrow weight that is very similar to mine. This is a 555 grain arrow. I run a 575. Wouldn't mind running a 555. It's just my arrow build set me up that way. But 555 grain arrow out of the Hoyt RX7 Ultra. (262 feet per second). Let's see if we can get a duplicate reading, meaning that is our accurate reading. And that wouldn't be too bad for a 555 grain arrow. (261). So definitely in that ballpark figure of 260 feet per second on a 555 grain arrow. Duplicate 1, 261. So that's definitely the consistent speed. 30-inch draw length, 70 pounds, and that was a 555 grain arrow. Moving over to the PSE Mach34, we're on a 30-inch draw length, 350 grain arrow, 70-pound bow. On the RX7 Ultra, we got 324 feet per second, as opposed to their spec 334. and this one is a 336 if I remember correctly. So let's see what we get out of this bow. .330, 330 feet per second. Not bad, but it is our first try. So let's just shoot a few more arrows and confirm that. .332, even quicker out the bow. Moving over to the 500 grain arrow. Now's where we start seeing the two bows going up against each other. We've got 271 out of the Hoyt RX7 Ultra. Let's see what we get out of the PSE. 270, 270 feet per second. Let's just get a second arrow in, confirm that. Right now they're hand in hand with each other. That's the exact reading we got on the RX7 Ultra. Let's confirm it. .273 feet per second. Let's do one more. .274 feet per second. It just seems to be getting quicker, but let's take the average there and say 273 feet per second, which is only 2 feet faster than the RX7 Ultra on a 500 grain arrow. Moving over to the 555 grain arrow for the Mach34. .258 feet per second. If I'm not mistaken, we got 261 on the RX7 Ultra. So 258. I really didn't want to see us dip under the 260s on this kind of weight, but it's not a speed bow, so it is something we must take into account. Can't compare it to the likes of the Omen or anything like that. .243. Something wasn't right there. Maybe the sun wasn't on it, but there's no ways it drops by almost 20 feet per second. We've moved the chrono a little bit into the sun. .260. So 260 feet per second. So if we take on the average, first shot 258, third shot 260, that second shot I think it was got to do with the sun and the chrono. These bows are almost on par with 1 or 2 feet per second difference on those higher weighted arrows, and then on the 350 it was a 5 foot per second difference. So really guys, much of a muchness. It really comes down to how these bows are going to feel for you. Let's go down to the scoreboard. Let's see if we had to choose one, what would we choose? This is a bow battle at the end of the day, so I have to choose a winner, but I must reiterate that this was only in one day, and this opinion of mine is based on my shooting experience for the day. I do think it's a bit unfair that both bows are on 30-inch draw length, so I'm not getting the full feel of the draw cycle. But here's the categories. We got speed, we got noise, and we got vibration. So I must say, when it comes to noise, both these bows get a tick 1 and 2. They're very, very similar. When it comes to speed, on the 350 grain arrow, the PSE was 5 feet per second faster, but in the greater scheme of things, that really is nothing. And then when we went down to, or up to the 500 grain arrow, they both came in at about the 271 feet per second. And we went to the 555 grain arrow, they both came out at about 260 feet per second. So they're both going to get a tick on the speed. Now for the vibration. I don't know if it's that little stabilizer at the bottom of that RX7 Ultra that's doing a lot of the work for the bow, or if I should be taking that off to make it completely fair. But I have to say, what was the deciding factor for today's winner is the vibration test. That RX7 Ultra was completely dead in the hand, where that Mach34 gave a little bit of feedback. These are bare bows, no stabilizers, no weights, no sights, a very basic rest on it, and I'm sure those things would aid in the vibration. But when it comes down to what I felt today on a bare bow with limited time with these bows, I have to pick a winner, and that's going to be the RX7 Ultra. Well, that's it guys. With my limited time spent with these bows today, I chose the RX7 Ultra, but just remember, I had to set it at a 30-inch draw length. That's not my draw length, and I would have had a different experience with that Mach 34 had it been on 27.5. Definitely want to give it a go, but for today, Hoyt won. Enjoy, guys.